All right, these are the lecture notes for BPT 113, Chapter 1, The Selling Environment. First off, what is selling? Well, let's ask, what have you sold today? Everybody has sold something in one way or another at some point in their life, whether you think of yourself as a salesperson or not. Fact of the matter is, if you have human interaction of any kind, then you sell something every day. The answer to what is selling? Well, everything is selling. Every communication we have in one way or another. We're either selling someone our point of view, we're selling someone a story, we're selling someone a friendship, we're selling somebody something with every communication that we have. Almost every environment exists because somebody with sales skills matches a need with a product or a service that fulfilled that particular need. One person has something, someone else needs or wants something, a transaction takes place. So, especially in the business world, everything exists because somebody had something that somebody else wanted, and the transaction took place as a result. In its typical definition, selling connotes economic exchange, not day-to-day human interaction. For sellers in electronic media, for example, the exchange is dollars for advertising time or for message space. So in the case here for what we're talking about in this course, the way that we generate revenue in the broadcast world, in radio, in television, in new media, by and large, is by offering advertising time to businesses to be able to promote their products and services. Lowry Mays talks about various forms of media as conduits from the advertiser to the viewer or the listener. As sellers of advertising and electronic media, we are sellers of the advertiser's product. So this might be something that some of you might have to think about a little bit. When we think about sales in the broadcasting world, many of us probably think about the fact that we are selling advertising. So we are selling our product or service to a prospective advertiser. But really, what's happening if we're doing our job effectively is that we are actually selling the advertiser's product on behalf of the advertiser. We are providing the space. Sometimes we are even helping to create the ad that is going to be presented over the airwaves. And we are the ones that make sure that message gets conveyed. So we are the ones that are selling the advertiser's product on behalf of the advertiser. Zig Ziglar calls selling a transference of feeling. And here's what he means by that. If I, the salesman, can make you, the prospect, feel about my product the way I feel about my product, then you are going to buy my product. In order to transfer a feeling, you've got to have that feeling. Here's what that means. That means we have some sort of a passion for the thing that we are trying to sell. In the case of advertising, we should be passionate enough about the product that we have, which is our airtime on our particular station that we're selling for, or our particular website that we're selling for, whatever it is that we're representing. We have a passion for that particular company that we are working for, and we're trying to convey that passion to the prospective advertiser. So we want them to feel the same excitement that we do about what it is that we're offering to them. The path to a sale is through uncovering client needs and satisfying those needs with product benefits, says Charles Warner and Joseph Buchanan in their book, Broadcast and Cable Selling. So what we're doing here is creating an environment in which we're going to a prospective advertiser We're finding out what it is that they need for their business, for their organization, what problem they have they want to solve. And with what we're offering, with advertising, with selling our airtime, that we are helping them to be able to fulfill a need that they have. We find out what the needs are, and then we help to solve that problem to fulfill that need. Moving on now. Warner and Buchanan divide buyers into two different groups. First off, there's customers, and then there's prospects. Customers have already bought what you have to sell, and they need to be nurtured or resold. So think about this in any other space. If you are somebody that buys a product on a regular basis or buys from a particular store on a regular basis, you are a regular customer of those products, those services, those stores. And you will go back to buy things from them on a regular basis as you have need to. If it's groceries, going to the grocery store. If it's electronics, going to Best Buy or wherever you buy those things from. You are a customer that wants to have their needs met on a regular basis, knows what it is you're looking for, and it's the job of the company to create an environment in such a way that you come back to them for return business. Now, prospects require information about your product, explanation of benefits, and evidence about expected results. So a prospect is somebody that is not yet buying in to what it is that you have to sell. They need to be convinced that what you have to offer is something that is going to fulfill a need or a desire that they have. So they want information, they want explanations, and they want evidence. They want proof that what you have is worth what it is you're trying to sell them. However, the last thing a prospect wants is to be a prospect. That makes him or her sound like a target and not a person. Think about any time that a salesperson approaches you and is asking you questions or trying to talk to you about whatever it is that they have available. And even if you do have an interest in it, a lot of times that can be off-putting. And the reason why it can be off-putting many times is because in our environment, when someone comes and they start pitching lines to us or asking questions of us out of the blue, it could be somewhat intrusive. It could be something that would be inconvenient, that takes time away from us, or perhaps for whatever other reason we just don't want to be bothered. And we can sense when somebody has that sort of an agenda behind them. So it's not something that many of us warm up to, at least openly, unless we are actively looking for something, or we continue to recognize a problem that we have and are trying to troubleshoot that problem, and then this person comes along. But if we are a prospect, we don't want to be treated just like somebody that has money that we can give away. We want to be treated in such a way that if they are going to approach us, that they are going to benefit us in one way or another with what it is that they're offering. So, are you selling or are you marketing? What's the difference? Selling is trying to get someone to buy something, whereas marketing means creating conditions by which the buyer is convinced to make a purchase without outside persuasion. So going back to the example that we were just talking about, we don't want to feel pressured. We don't want to feel like we're being towed along in a certain way that perhaps is not a way that we want to go, and all those sorts of things. When someone approaches us, we want that evidence. We want examples. We want to see various types of results. And those sort of things, many times, will speak in and of themselves to somebody that is perhaps interested in buying a product or a service. Those that come up with that desire to buy based on information that is available out there is going to be the result of someone that has done successful marketing. Now, we're going to see here in a bit that there's not necessarily a one or other sort of aspect here. It's kind of a both and. We'll get to that in just a bit. Marketing differs from sales in the sense that marketing involves creating a desire for the product that is related to emotion, image, or desire rather than practical need. So what we're talking about here is, if you're going to the grocery store and you want to buy a can of ravioli. Yes, there's always the generic store brand that's available, and then there's the name brands out there. So what may make you decide to buy Chef Boyardee as opposed to the store brand that's available? Well, perhaps certain images or memories that you have of Chef Boyardee foods. Maybe it's some sort of a deal that is going on. Maybe there's something that catches your eye, a floor display or the packaging on the can of ravioli, whatever it happens to be. But basically what we're talking about here is that there's going to be a desire not just for the product, but for the particular type of product that is being offered. The effective seller moves from marketing to selling and back again, often in the course of a few minutes. Depending on where you are in the sales process, you might find yourself either in a very customer-focused needs analysis, which would be marketing, or asking for the order, which is selling. So again, as I mentioned before, selling and marketing is not necessarily polar opposites of each other. They are distinct, but it's not one or the other. It's a both and sort of thing. You're marketing the product that you have, in our case, advertising. You're also selling, trying to get the prospective advertiser to buy. Some new realities. Today's reality for television is an increase of media outlets competing for dollars and a concurrent decline in share. The whole concept of selling television has changed to a customer focus out of necessity. So basically right up until the 80s, broadcast television was pretty much the big dog. If you wanted to advertise, radio was still out there, was still an option, but television was what a lot of people were watching. Everyone was sitting at home at night, tuning into primetime TV, catching their favorite programs. And it was very, very attractive for advertisers to be on one of the big three networks. Then comes along cable television and starts whittling away some of the share from broadcast television. Then comes along new media with the internet, and that starts whittling away at some of the advertising dollars that were originally meant for television. So there's a certain amount of money that's out there. Advertisers are spending the money using different sorts of media, but television is not seeing near as many dollars overall as they were in the past. When it comes to marketing, what you want is unimportant. It's what your customer wants that matters. So this is the idea, and we're going to talk a lot about this in this chapter, is that when you're selling, yes, obviously you're trying to make money for the company, make your commission, all that sort of thing. But the mindset that you have to go into is that you are there to meet the needs of the customer. Whether the customer realizes those needs are there or not, your goal is to help meet those customers' needs. Peter Drucker even says the customer is the business. The customer is the business. Without the customer, you have no business because you have no money coming in. And unless you're donating all of your money and your time to the venture that you are doing. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to make a living off of, because our world revolves around money and you have to pay bills and all that sort of thing. So you have to realize that without the customer, you have no business. So the customer is the business. Now, as far as the customer goes, there's only one person who really knows the customer, and that is the customer. Only by asking the customer can one find out who he is, what he does, how he buys, how he uses what he buys, what he expects, what he values, all those sorts of things. We can guesstimate as much as we want using demographic data and even using a word that's not very popular these days, profiling, using stereotypes, all that sort of thing. And they help us a little bit, but all of us are unique individuals. And only by asking the particular customer what his or her needs are for his or her business will we be able to know for sure exactly how to address that particular customer's needs. Something else to keep in mind, the customer rarely buys what the business thinks it sells him or her. Nobody pays for a product. What is paid for is satisfactions. So yeah, we may go into a store and look to purchase a particular item. But if we purchase that particular item, take it home, and it doesn't work the way that it's supposed to, or it's not the right size or color or shape, or there's something about it that is less than what we expected, we become not satisfied with that product. And we either turn the product back in for a refund, or we suck it up and then never shop at that particular retailer again. All sorts of things can happen there. So while there is a product available, the ultimate goal is that the customer is satisfied with the purchase that he or she made. All right, let's define sales. What is sales? Well, a couple definitions here to look at. Diane Sutter says this: selling is identifying and satisfying customer needs profitably. Profitable for you and profitable for them. Now, this definition reflects the customer orientation of marketing as well as the product orientation of selling. So again, you have the both and principle going on here. Reaching out to the customer, identifying the customer's needs, satisfying the customer's needs, and then receiving compensation for doing so. That is selling. In electronic media, all we sell are intangibles. What does that mean? So these are things that aren't necessarily concrete. You can't hold, you can't see, you can't smell, whatever it is. You can see it for 30 seconds when it's on the TV screen, or hear it for 30 seconds when it's on the radio. But otherwise, it's intangible. We're talking about airtime. We're talking about impressions. We're talking about ratings points. However, intangible should not be mistaken for unreal. Just because you can't hold it, feel it, squeeze it, pet it, name it George, whatever you want to do, it is a real thing. Just like the air you breathe is real. Just like the wind is real when it's blowing outside. Airtime is a real thing. It's just intangible. So what do we do with that? Well, I'll tell you what your customer does is it looks at results. And you can measure results from advertising in a variety of different ways. You can measure it by the number of new customers that you're receiving. You can measure it by increased image for a product or service if you're gaining a reputation in one way or another. For votes at the polling place, a lot of times, a lot of stuff nowadays, not just candidates for office, are being voted on. That's how Google reviews and Yelp and all that sort of thing works. So people are rating companies all the time. You can be assured that your customer will also be measuring results in a tangible way. Do they see increased traffic into their business as a result of advertising with your company? Are they seeing increased satisfaction from their customers, improved reputation from the campaign that they're putting out? They're going to be able to measure that in all sorts of different ways, perhaps not the same ways we do in the business, but through interactions with their customers, through the reviews they see of themselves online, through different feedback, through social media. All of these things are going to be tools that they are going to use to determine if the advertising that they've invested in is effective. Electronic media as a whole is a powerful advertising tool because it commands the close attention of its users. Now, depending which medium you're talking about, that happens in different ways. If you're talking about television, it generally requires that someone is sitting in front of the TV. They're taking in the images that are coming through, and they're consuming the message that is being given to them. They're actively hearing and they're actively watching. Even if they're doing other things like, scrolling through Facebook on their phone or whatever it is, there's still that sense that they are involved in whatever is going on the TV screen. In radio, where you have just the audio message going on, it's much more personal in that you have that intimacy of radio that works to their advantage, when someone hears the message, when someone hears the message coming through on radio, they are feeling that intimacy of radio, kind of like someone is just talking to them. The person on the radio is talking to just them that's listening. So that's what these next points are here. Video advertising offering compelling and memorable visual images that remain in the viewer's memory, and that's why video is so effective in building brands. And then on the radio side, radio's ability to target by demographic group and by lifestyle. That's some of the ways that radio is to be able to be more of that intimate sort of medium. Messages are perceived as direct communication in that sort of way. Interactive media, meanwhile, online services, they engage the consumer in a one-on-one exchange. If used properly, the messages can be specifically targeted to that one individual. This is a medium that is personal in a different way than radio is, in that generally it's one person looking at a screen, one person controlling what happens with that screen, and the message being conveyed is being reached to that one particular person. The one thing that you have to keep in mind with all of this is that you cannot flatly sell anybody anything. You must help them discover that they need what it is that you're selling. So it's not just as easy as, putting up your lemonade stand, putting a sign up, lemonade for sale, and expecting people to come and flock to purchase your product. You have to create an awareness of your product and that they need your product to help them in some way. And that is your job as a salesperson to convey that need to your prospective advertisers.